Time to make another lure. And yes, you guessed it, we're making another lure for pelagics. But this one is a diver. It's based off the Japanese style lures that have the diving lip shaped into the body of the lure there. And it's just going to be hopefully a long cast diver that I can retrieve really, really fast, and it won't blow out, and will cast very well with the weight evenly distributed through the flexion points. So let's try to figure this thing out, eh? We're making this lure out of Australian red cedar. You know how Marlin Bates does fun facts? Well, I'm going to do a direct rip-off of that and do Australian facts. Let's get into it. So, Australian red cedar. Tuna ciliata variegatum australis. Highly prized Australian red cedar was often referred to as red gold during the early pioneering years of Australia. Red cedar was undoubtedly the most valuable timber found in the coastal brushlands of New South Wales, documented as early as 1802. Oh, interesting. The giant red cedars of Australia were magnificent trees growing up to 60 metres tall, holy dooly, with girths of 11.5 metres recorded. That's a fat booty. Literally towering over surrounding trees, usually entangled in vines which had to be cut away before the trunks could be felled. The base of the giant's trunk is often buttressed. You know how it comes down and has like all massive different roots, like this tall off the ground, holds them all steady, kind of like figs. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? The largest ever recorded red cedar tree felled in Australia was in 1883. It came from the Nulla Creek area in Upper Macleay, New South Wales, producing a whopping 240 cubic metres of timber. That's a lot of fishing lures. Sadly, one of the few remaining giants, a 500-year-old red cedar, heritage listed and located in the Atherton Tableland, fell victim to Cyclone Larry in 2006. Poor bugger. Measured 9.6 metres in diameter. Phew. Under the protection of National Parks Australia, it is rumoured that perhaps a few of these gentle giants may still exist. I've seen a couple of big ones, but maybe not that big. One of which being reported to be located in New South Wales, measuring in at a whopping girth of 11.3 metres. Holy dooly, I want to go see that. I wonder where it is. Red cedar is a subtropical rainforest tree classified in the mahogany family. So all you mahogany fans out there, this is for you. It is found throughout southern Asia, from Afghanistan to Papua New Guinea and in Australia. I guess that's why it's called Tuna ciliata variegatum, because it's a variation of all the other red cedars found in the other countries. That's right, I've done my Cert 3 in horticulture. It is a light, fine-grained timber, bestowing a beautiful, even, deep red colour. The heartwood is naturally durable and easy to work with. Yes, it is. In its natural subtropical environment, red cedar is actually deciduous, losing its leaves in winter to avoid the dry season. It thrives on deep, well-drained basalt soils, usually found along rivers and creeks in areas of high summer rainfall. It is Australia's few native deciduous tree. It was extensively used for furniture, wood panelling and construction, blah blah blah, and shipbuilding. They just decimated it when they came in. Am I recording? Cedar was so exploited by the first settlers in Australia that within like 20 years it was pretty much decimated from the country. And there was put all these different laws and all these different things to stop people from cutting them down, because it was basically just driven to extinction that easily. Unfortunately, it was an easy timber to find in the winter because it's deciduous. You know, you'd walk into the rainforest, look for the one tree without leaves, like, oh, there we go, we found a red cedar, and they just go obliterate it. And it is very rare these days, unfortunately. Attempts to commercially produce red cedar have proven to be unsuccessful, as the young red cedar requires quite specific conditions in which to grow. The dark environment of a rainforest provides these perfect conditions. When too much light falls on a young cedar tree, it risks an attack by cedar titmoth, Hypsipyla robusta. Strangely, the tree actually produces a natural chemical that attracts the female moth. The moth lays its eggs in the tree's leading shoot. The larvae burrow into the stem, resulting in dieback of the leading shoot. So it doesn't actually kill the tree, but if you know anything about plants, the leading shoot of the plant is where all the growing energy is going. It's just leading its way up, so it grows upwards into a nice straight tree. And if you come in and you take out those leading shoots, it just starts sending out shoots all over the plant, like in every which way. So it grows into like a short like shrub, and it's all like gangly. That's what they do with hedges. Have you seen people cut their hedges? That's how the hedges get thickened out and whatever. So when that happened to the cedar tree, they wouldn't grow into a nice straight timber tree, and then they would go out all gangly, and there's no use for it in timber. So that's why they struggle to produce it as a plantation timber. So that's Australian facts. Red cedar. If you're one of those blokes who goes out there on private property and cuts them down, you suck. Just leave them be. They're a beautiful, incredible tree that needs to be preserved in this country because they are very, very rare. And once again, they're very rare, like most things that are rare these days, because of the exploitation of humans and the greed of humans. So, yeah, leave them alone. And if you're going to use their timber, go find some second-hand stuff like I did. Someone who's willing to give you some that they've had for years and years. The stuff that I use was given to me by a builder whose father had it, I think from his father, from way back in the day when you could still fell them. So that's a reason why I also use second-hand timber, is because I hate deforestation with a passion. I love nature, I love my rainforest, my national parks, my state forests. And I love animals and biodiversity, and I love wild places, and I want to see them preserved for the future and always there for us and my children and my grandchildren and future generations to come. So yeah, that is Australian facts. Alright guys, so I've got my internals all done there. Through wire is made, the ends are wrapped. The lead is in its little lead slots there. As you can see, it'll be sandwiched on both sides. And yeah, I thought I'd just give you a look at my internals before I glue it together on how I threw wire. So it's just a little slot that I Dremel in as well to sit nice and tight in the body. The weighting behind this bait is almost like a jerk bait weight system. All the weight is centered around the hook hanger, so it's going to sit very, very steady, but it's still going to have a flexion point that is a bit further back and a bit more spread out. Instead of having all the weight up here and the flexion point up this section, where I would get more of a bigger kick like this, I should get a tighter shimmy and a quicker run. So it should allow me to be able to retrieve faster and also get a jerkbait action with the rod tip if I decide to fish it like that. So let's get these two lures glued together. So what I do first is I run the epoxy down the wire slot first, just to make sure that wire is sitting in the glue. And then I'll get a little bit in the lead holes. Just to make sure they're nice and secure. And then I'll just spread it out thinly and evenly across the rest of the body. So on this side, I do the same thing, run it down the wire slot and in the holes, but I don't put as much glue on the body, just because then it's not enough glue to squish out everywhere when you clamp it together. It gets all messy. So I just do it really thin, just spread it a little bit, just like that. And set the sinkers in. Set the wire in, sandwich her together, line her up and clamp her in the vise. And then once it's clamped in, I'll come in with these little G clamps here and I'll clamp the ends down just to make sure there's even pressure the whole way across. Alrighty, I just finished shaping up these baits here. As you can see, it's got a very subtle taper to the tail, and I just left the head quite square. Look at how beautiful this timber is. Sand's back so nice. Look at that. So you can see there I got the purple. This is actually a colour shift purple, and it looks really good on the body. Really bait fish like, super iridescent. Now I'm going to come over with the teal just very lightly and blend it all in together. It's going to be a bit hard to pick up because they're so subtle, but we have some very fine, subtle scales in there. They basically just fade out into the belly, and on certain angles you can't even see them, but they are there. You can still see that iridescent purple and teal, which is really lovely. Perfect. Alright, on to the next step. It's looking fantastic. That pattern, the purple looks super nice on the back, suits it really well. And just added that little tiny bit more purple on the flank there. The teal's kind of like just disappeared into the body, which is okay. It doesn't really need to be there too much. I can only like barely just make it out. But that happens sometimes. Sometimes colours get lost in the background. So I'm just going to come in with a little, very subtle bit of gold and yeah, add a tiny bit of gold, mainly up into the head area. And then we're pretty much finished. I didn't realise my SD card was full and I stopped recording, but these are all the gill plates cut out. So there's my eyes. Got some gold irises and some green irises there, just behind the big black pupils. There we go, they're all done. They turned out really nice. That those gills and that fin puts off so much shine in the water. Definitely going to draw some attention in, that's for sure. That. Very simple colour, but super effective. Very happy with how it turns out. This fella here, I went with a teal colour on the back with some fastback green and then some detail smoke black, and it looks so nice. Look at that. And he's also got a whole bunch of really subtle details in the body here. As you can see, all those scale details and those lines, and also on all the different angles, the different types of iridescence show up and come through. They look really, really, really good. Absolutely beautiful, and I hope the fish think they look that good too, because they look pretty irresistible to me, let alone a tuna. But I just love the back on this thing. Look at that. That is just delightful. Just absolutely delightful. It's also got the magenta chin and tail, which is always nice. Alright, they work pretty bloody good. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. They got a body roll, a bit of a shimmer, just like this, and then they also like to hunt as you retrieve them, which I actually really like in lures, the hunting action. It's a really good way to get reaction strikes out of fish. So I'm pretty stoked how they turned out. I've never made a lure like this before, and hopefully they'll catch me some fish. They're perfect weight for my light spinning setup for off the rocks. So that's it for this video. I haven't got much else to say apart from thank you for watching as usual, and I really appreciate that. And hopefully the next time you see these lures, they'll be hanging out of a big fish's mouth. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Which one's your favourite?
I didn't realise you were recording me. Oh.
Which one's going to catch a big fish?
Hang on, I have to assess the paint job. This is pretty. This is like the night sky. Well, this one's got pretty purple in it too though. This one's got a nice green eye. Good balance. I think my favourite is this one. This one.
Blue one wins, eh?
Because it's got the pretty purple down the side. In the light, it's got the really pretty purple.
There we go, we have a wiener.
But I like the night sky galaxy in this one. That's pretty too. And I also love green. You know I'm a sucker for dark green. If the top of this one was blue and the green was on the bottom, that'd be pretty. It'd be very pretty. I can't pick. I can't. I like them both. I do like them both. I think let's keep them both. I don't know about you, I like the purple.
That's a fat booty.